Welcome to Don't Quote Me on That. One day we will have an intro, but today is not that day.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm Kalina.
And I'm Elanor.
And welcome back to Don't Quote Me on That, where we love Ireland. That's the show.
Yeah, this is not gonna be our least repetitive episode.
It's just like we always joke we've got three things, and unfortunately for not even for us, unfortunately for everyone listening, Hozier just kind of is the pinnacle of all three of those things at once.
Mm-hmm.
So really, you need to take it up with him.
Yeah.
Who told him to release an album right now?
I don't know, and I have a lot of things I want to say, but I genuinely think we should just go straight into the first song. I think that might be safest for everybody involved.
I think I'm gonna let Elanor go just because Eleanor's told me she has a lot of thoughts, and I might need to cut her off, whereas she won't need to cut me off. So
Okay.
she might.
DeSelby Part 1, the opening song. I'm reading from my notes. I know we don't have visuals here. I'm reading from my notes very dramatically. Imagine it's on a scroll. It's on my phone, but imagine it's on a scroll. Why would he do this to me?
I said, it is very rude to open with a song in Irish.
So DeSelby Part 1 is a song, and it's like half in English and half in Irish, and it's not just like English and then the same words in Irish. I thought it was, but I checked it and it's not.
There's layers to this.
There is layers to this.
Depth. Shocker of shockers, we'll get this out of the way. Eleanor and I went to school in Ireland. The Irish people don't know Irish. They'll be the first people to tell you.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting. Kalina and I went to a college that was primarily an education school, and it's my understanding that teachers, like in primary school and possibly secondary school, you have to take Irish. So like I think we were surrounded by a little bit more Irish than, like, I don't know, not an education college would be.
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't like in the thick of it, but it was around. I also think, like, as a whole, this album has something deeper going on that I didn't like look into. I feel like I'm missing a lot of layers.
That's what I like about this album, though, is that I don't think you need the layers to understand it. And every song has two layers, which is one is like him when we're singing about relationship, which is what he does. But two, most of it is based on Dante's Inferno, and then like stories from a couple like stories here and there from that sort of time. But like most of it is linked to like the different circles of hell, and he kind of takes you through the circles of hell.
Oh. What are your thoughts on? I'm also realizing in my notes I definitely called this song D. Shelby.
I really like this. It reminded me a lot of the theme song to that show Outlander, where she goes, "Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I?" And she's like, "Really?" It's like, and then I came to my senses and I wrote this in all caps at the end. I said, "Siren song." Because that's what it sounds like. That's what his voice sounds like. That's what like the like light and airy. And I usually don't like light and airy vocals, which we've talked about. But here it's very siren song-y. Like he's trying to convince you to jump off the ship, and he's like not. I thought this was also like, we talk about album openers. I think this is anyone else, I would think this was a bad album opener. But because it's him and because of how the rest of the album sounds, perfect album opener.
Yes.
I have no notes.
Thank you. The very first time I listened to this, I was like, this is a very bold opener. Like, it could either be, it's either, like, just kind of thrown in there. Also, you had told me that there was a song in Irish, and I was like, that sounds like a middle album move. Doesn't really sound like a closer, doesn't really sound like an opener. He whipped that stuff out quick.
And I thought it was going, because I'd heard there was a song in Irish. So I thought it was going to be a full song in Irish, and I was like, that's a really bold move. I almost didn't notice it was Irish, partly because I found, you can tell me if you agree, when people speak Irish, it just sounds like English, but you're like, oh, maybe I'm having a stroke. That's what I thought every single time.
Yeah, I think you and I have talked about this, where, like, it kind of sounds like English syllables, but not in the like the order that we're used to. Like that's kind of how it sounds to me, which is a lot different to how other languages sound to me.
Yeah, and then also I think like for a frame of reference, you have a frame of reference of what like a European or romantic European language sounds like. You have a frame of reference of what like Arabic, Middle Eastern languages sound like. There's no frame of reference for the like the large majority of people for what a Gaelic language sounds like. I will break out my Irish. I was also told I had good pronunciation here. The only Irish I ever learned. We're embarrassing. Anyway, that means how are you?
I was telling somebody that the other day because I was talking about how I lived in Ireland with one of the girls at work, and she was like, "Oh yeah, do they have their own language?" And I was like, "Actually, yeah." And and I was like, "Did you learn any?" I said, "I mean, I sort of tried, but this is all I know." And then I said, "I'll say it for you, but this is literally all I know." And then I said it. And she goes, "Oh, and like, what do you respond to that?" And I said, "What part of that is literally all I know? I can ask a question. I cannot understand or answer it."
Yeah, you just gotta kind of read their face. I'm like, I think they're okay. You know what else is okay? This song, The Selby, part 1.
Yes.
And then, since we haven't talked about this at all, I think the song, just in general, is about kind of like where, and I saw him also talk about this, so it's not totally me coming up the cuff with this. Him talking about, like, basically kind of, like, the darkness between you and your lover, and kind of how you disappear in the blurred lines between the two of you. Which, I read this really interesting book once about sex and relationships, and one thing that stuck with me is it says, before you become one, you must be two. And basically, you have to be your own person. You have to be two separate people before you can be in a relationship. You can't just be half a person and be in a relationship. That's not gonna make the relationship work. So kind of, you are these two separate entities, but being able to be in this safe space and not exist almost in a way when you are in this relationship because the lines are being blurred between the two of you. Eleanor's making a face that I don't like, so we're gonna move on to the next song.
Yeah, okay, moving on to the next song is not much better.
No, it's not. My first note for... Oh, actually, I'll let you go. We have to let Eleanor go first.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to be cut off or put down. De Selby Part 2. This song, the flow from Part 1 to Part 2, I know they're like sequel songs, so I'm sure it was done very purposefully, which is another thing. I feel like this album is very purposeful, which is really hot. The flow is really nice. I love when a song flows into another song when you listen to an album track by track. This was handled really well. This song went on my playlist in like the first 2 seconds. Also, just real quick, I thought that he wrote all of his own songs by his lonesome. I have no idea why I thought that, but I thought he did, and this song had a surprising amount of people on the songwriters credit list at the end of the Apple Music lyrics.
I thought he did too, but he does write on all of his songs, and on Wikipedia he was listed first on everything.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
And there was a couple songs on the album that I think were just him, or at most it was him and one other person.
Good. This song is hot.
Yeah.
It sounds really good.
I said bass.
If you want it done.
You can't go wrong with bass in your song. And you can't go wrong with starting with me hearing the bass in your song. And also, sound like Hozier. Thank you. Those are the only 2 tips I really have for anybody ever. I thought this song was really groovy, so I really liked how we went from that first kind of quiet, but like, I don't know, I wouldn't say tempting, like alluring song into this very groovy, so it still kept that, but kind of picked up the pace without picking up tempo. And I love how we kind of pause the groove a little bit in the pre-chorus, and then we pump into the chorus. The chorus, I said to me, kind of feels like the background instrumentals kind of feels like you're on like a space ride. You're kind of like speeding up and shooting into space, if that makes sense.
It does.
Not to get on my soapbox, I don't like love songs. I think they're just not compelling narratively to me. Hozier is the only artist I can think of that writes about love in a way that makes me want to be in love. And I had a big brain thought the other day that...
Uh-oh. Are you hurt?
Shut up. My parents, and bear with me because it's not going to sound great for a second. My parents, I think, at the end of the day, if nothing else, they're friends. They, like, laugh together. They have fun, you know? So, like, I wouldn't say they're, like... I wouldn't say... To me, I never saw them, and I never found this appealing, probably as a result of this, be very, like, lovey-dovey, gooey with each other. And I don't like that. I don't find that to be a compelling expression of love. For me, personally. Okay? I know I'm the oddball here, right? So, but to me, like, the only thing that appealed to me about being in a relationship and being married was, and having someone in your life in that way was stability. Just knowing you could have someone to come home to and tell stupid things to and be your worst self, you know, someone who'd always be there. Not necessarily the big, grand expressions. So hearing this song where he was, and I think this is both, like, a big expression of love that I normally wouldn't like, but I do. But also at the same time, it's like the way he says things is so plainly. It's like, obviously, like, he says, I want to run so far I'd beat the morning. Before the dawn has come, I'd block the sun if you want it done. And he just says it, like, obviously.
Yep.
You didn't even have to ask. I would do that for you, and it would be as easy as breathing for me to do that. Anyway, I love this song so much.
I love this song so much. Anyway, the next song I can't talk about for very long. It's called The First Time. So this song, I have a criticism.
Oh,
there's an echo kind of sort of effect on some of it, and I didn't like that. It made me think that my phone was bugging for a little bit.
Maybe it'd be smarter. Have you considered that?
I don't know. I didn't like it. It didn't hit my ear the way that I wanted it to. But we're gonna cut me off there and move on to Kalina.
I like this song. I had no complaints. I love a reoccurring motif in a song that is, like, slightly, not warped, but, like, slightly warped every time it comes up. And so here in the first chorus, he says, a part of me died the first time that you called me baby, but a part of me came alive the first time that you called me baby. And the second chorus, he says, a part of me died each time that you called me baby, but a part of me came alive each time that you called me baby. And in the final chorus, he says, a part of me died the last time that you called me baby, but a part of me... the final time that you called me baby, but a part of me came alive the final time that you called me baby. And I also like in this song, and I think it comes up in a later song, if I remember, kind of, it's almost ambiguous, and because it's Hozier and because of the theme of the album, I'm assuming it's a positive change, because he does write a lot about appreciating the darkness and not the negative things, but appreciating the, like, not so bright and shiny things of life and relationships specifically, and his partner. He sings a lot about that. But at the end, where it's like, which is the part of him that came alive, like, when the final time she called him baby, was that a good thing? Like, he was, like, ready to move past his relationship, or was it bad? Kind of like, it's festering, you know? And he has this moment in the pre-chorus, he finishes singing the pre-chorus and he goes, anyway, and then moves, and I just thought that was cute little ad-lib, I guess. And then in the song, it says, whatever keeps you around, it keeps you around. And, like, just the desperation. You just, whatever I would do, I don't care what it is. Again, he would block the sun. If that is what it took to keep you here with him, he would do it. No questions asked.
This is gonna be a special.
Yeah. We should have done this in person, probably.
No, I don't. I think that... Well, no, we should have, because I think I would have been too embarrassed to say most of these things out loud if you were right there.
Next song is Francesca. What are your thoughts?
I think Kalina has more thoughts about this one than I do. I know that this song, especially the TikTok lesbians, shout out to you, love you, they're really into this song. I like the concept of this song. I think it's nice. I will never say no to somebody pretty and Irish saying the word darling. But I don't know, he really loves an echo, and I don't particularly love an echo.
I love an echo. This was my favorite single. This was one of his singles, and it was my favorite of them. And this one I do know the story of a little bit. Basically, there was some lady named Francesca. She got married off really young in a political marriage, and she had some, like, affair with a guy named Paolo. And when her husband found out, he killed the both of them.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Great.
this song is about the two of them. And basically in the song he says, I tell them to put me back in. So like they're put in the circle of hell, set aside for like sins of lust essentially. And basically in the song he's saying, I would go through hell again if I could hold you for a minute. I would go through all this suffering and pain because our love was so great. I don't like the end of the song because it has such a good line, but I could not tell what he was saying. I didn't see it till I looked at the lyrics, but he says, heaven is not fit to house a love like you and I. And I was wondering, you could take it both ways in the sense that like they are holier than heaven, is how he sees it. Or, yes, he knows that their love is a sin, but like the enormity of their love simply outweighs the sin of their love. I love this guy. He's great. And then I also had to throw in a musical reference because of course I did.
Obviously.
He says, though I know my heart would break, which made me think of the story of Orpheus and Eurydice purely because in the Hadestown, the Broadway musical version of it, the show loops. So at the beginning it says, Hermes is like narrating the show. And Orpheus and Eurydice basically, they get married. Eurydice gets taken down to the other world. Orpheus goes to collect her. And Hades says, okay, you can take her, but you can't turn around. The two of you have to walk out of hell, but you can't turn around and look at her. And then at the end of the story, no matter how you interpret it, Orpheus turns around and looks at Eurydice, and she's trapped in hell forever, right? So Hermes is narrating the whole show, Hadestown, and in the beginning he says, it's an old song, but we sing it again. And at the end of the show, Orpheus turns around, and Eurydice is trapped. But then the show resets to however it looked at the beginning of the show, and Hades says, it's an old song, but we keep singing it because we hope it might turn out differently this time. So Hozier says, though I know my heart would break. So like they know what the end is. They know no matter what they do, they are doomed to die and be condemned to hell forever. But though they know that, their love is worth it. And I just love the delivery and the sentiment and the delivery and also the sentiment of if I could hold you for a minute.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I like this song a little bit more than I thought.
I love this song. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I thought this was a really great song, just narratively, lyrically.
It is a beautiful song. It's not my favorite, but it is nice.
I would love to hear your favorite because I don't know how you pick for any of them, honestly.
Oh, I picked one favorite and there's 3 songs. Okay, the next one. I carry on. I carry in.
I carry in.
Yes. I didn't cry to this song because, like, I am a grown-up. But, so, here's the thing. Unfortunately, how could I fall when I am lifted by every word you say to me? And like, sometimes things are hard and they suck. But we're gonna have Kalina take over. I found it. I think I'm good. I think I can say it. Sometimes having everything fall apart is worth it, because when things are done falling apart, you are able to see in like some incredibly amazing clarity what you had before they fell apart and kind of what allowed you to keep going during that time. And I only pray, don't fall away from me, as our friend said.
Actually, surprisingly, did not cry to this whole album, but the last listen through, a little bit. It was getting me there. Okay. I love this line. Once I wondered what was holding up the ground, but I can see all along, love, it was you all the way down. She makes his world. He loves her. And also, so this is a little play on words. It's called carrion, like rotting flesh, but also it's Icarian, like as in being Icarus-like. We all know the story of Icarus. I usually like when a verse is quiet and calm, and then like the chorus really comes in really, like, right in your face. Whereas this one, like, I think he does a really good job of knowing when to utilize that tool. And this song, he kept quiet the whole time, and I think it needed to. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, is him stating his love just like a fact.
Yeah. It's there, and it will always be there. And it being there, whatever.
And he, I'd read his poetry if he wrote poetry. If he was a poet, I'd read it, because he said, one of the opening lines is, "Allow the ground to find its brutal way to me." And it's just, it's not necessarily like, oh my god, that's exactly how I would have phrased it, but just the way he words things, it's like, yeah, that evokes, even if it doesn't directly say the sentiment, it evokes the exact same feeling you have. I don't get this often. When celebrities are dating, or like a specific celebrity is dating someone, and they're like, oh my god, imagine being his girlfriend. Imagine being loved by Hozier. I'd never ask for anything ever again as long as I lived. He talks about his love like that. He's tall. He's Irish. That's the list. He seems like he would laugh at my jokes. I don't really have a lot of requirements. It's very important to me that my partner finds me funny. That's why I've stuck with Elanor this long. Elanor thinks I'm hilarious.
I do.
Can we talk about the next song?
Yeah, do you want to start with the next song, or do you want me to start?
I want you to start every time.
Okay. Well, this song, I think, is mind-boggling.
Why?
Well, I don't know how to put this in a way that we can put on the internet, and also that will mean that you can still look me in the eyes. In general, there is a line that says, first of all,
actually, let's back up a second.
My favorite part of the Genius page of this song is there's a line where he says, "Let me watch the dressing start to peel," and some brilliant, beautiful genius on Genius said, "I think this could be seen as a sexual innuendo." And you're dumb. This whole song could be seen as a sexual innuendo. What? I need him to stop talking about carving, and I need him to stop talking about knives, because it's not good for me mentally, and it is not good for me physically, and it's not good for, like, my sound state of mind. And he also cannot be mixing it with history like this, because that's so much worse. I'm sorry, you can't talk about knives and hating capitalism in one song and not expect me to just, like, I had to grab a towel the first time I heard this song. It was so bad. It's just awful. Just horrible. This is one of my favorite songs on the entire album.
I'm cutting you off. I'm cutting you off. Oh my god. Hello everyone, this is Kalina. I'm now co-host list for the 700th time. Eat Your Young. Great song. I thought it was very funny of him to release, like, the verses of this song first. So then everyone on TikTok was like, oh my god, this is like, yeah, I want to sleep with my girlfriend. I want to sleep with my boyfriend. And then he released the rest of the song, and everyone was like, actually, just kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
just kidding. Because this is, and I read somewhere that he talked about this, that to him, and like at least in Ireland, that a modest proposal is such a part of their, I don't want to say lore, it is such a part of their historical context that it's not even like he did it intentionally. he was focused on other things. It came out naturally because that's something he studied and discussed and talked about frequently enough.
For everybody who doesn't know, A Modest Proposal is a text from 1729. I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. Jonathan Swift, thank you. About the famine and how one way that Irish citizens could get out of the famine is by eating their children. Obviously, it was a satirical text, but that's where Eat Your Young comes from.
Not great. Okay, the English.
Kind of funny though. Kind of a girl boss move to say that out loud.
No, hilarious. Hilarious that he said that out loud. He didn't just say that out loud. He wrote that out on paper.
He published it.
He said that with his full chest. So in the chorus, basically Hozier says, "There's 7 new ways to eat your young," and he says, "You're skinning the children for a war drum," which
American Teenager, Ethel Cain, beautiful.
Lives in the Balance by Jackson Brown. He says there are children at the cannons. Which that is exactly what I thought of.
And I mean, neighbor's brother came home in a box, but he wanted to go, so maybe it was his fault,
Oh, what did Fall Out Boy say? Came home with flags on coffins and said we won.
Oh, we won.
But they said,
Kalina and I didn't say anything. Especially the embarrassing stuff before. I didn't say any of that.
The news. Okay. But he says, pull up a ladder when the flood comes. Throw enough rope until the legs have swung. 7 new ways that you can eat your young. Come and get some. Skinning the children for a war drum. Putting food on the table. Selling bombs and guns. It's quicker and easier to eat your young. But it's the whole rest of the song is like a metaphor for things that you do when you love someone very, very much. And I also thought it was really clever of him. I think this is like the catchiest, I don't want to say poppiest, but like most radio-friendly song on this album, which makes sense. I think it was the first single, if not the second single, but I'm pretty sure it was the first single. This is kind of like the what was setting the stage for what this album was going to be. This is how he announced he was releasing an album, all that good stuff.
Ooh.
I think like releasing the chorus bits first, and like making it catchy and fun, and like, oh, this is a nice little innuendo. This is what we expect of Hozier, talking about loving your partner and blah 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 blah, right, and revering your partner. I thought it was just so funny to distract from not only when you get the whole song, the horror of what he's saying, but also it plays right into the fact that A Modest Proposal is a satire, and I think by making a joke and not making a mockery, making a joke and like making an innuendo out of something like eating your children so you don't starve because you're being starved to death very slowly. I think the only way to play that straight is to make it funny. So be like, oh yeah, have sex with your partner, eat your kids.
Yeah, eat their kids.
And you're getting whiplash. So you're like, wait a second. I was just having a fun, good little time. What do you mean? So like hiding it under those layers.
Brilliant.
And also I really liked that it was like verse, chorus, we were done. There was no exposition. He's not throwing a bridge in there.
Nope, he did not come to play around.
He said, eat your kids.
He came to start carving.
Nope. Nope. And also it made me think of Ireland. I saw a post the other day that said Ireland is the most expensive in Europe in terms of rent.
Oh, it's awful.
And when Hozier was talking about it, he was like, yeah, I wasn't even like consciously thinking about A Modest Proposal, just kind of developed naturally. But he was thinking about these things of like poverty and rent and the housing crisis. I know those are all the same thing. But like, the famine and like all of those things were kind of on his mind, and kind of like, he didn't say it, but I kind of feel it as like we're repeating history. It's like just a different, I don't know, it's like the same book, different cover. Like, it's happening again. We're just prettying it up. So he was like, I'll pretty up A Modest Proposal.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
No, I'm sorry, I can't say that sentence.
Nope. Next song, Elanor.
The next song, Damage Gets Done. One of the lines on this song is, if the sun shone on us, it's a plus. And I got caught on that for a very long time. I think this song is very sweet. This song is kind of about how like, looking back, maybe with rose-colored glasses, maybe not, on, like, before things went wrong, but not really before things went wrong in terms of, like, a relationship falling apart, but more, like, I kind of took it as kind of before the real world started to get your grips on something, which was really bad for me because of who I am as a person. And then I just kind of got really upset because one day you're hanging out with somebody and you're just like, you're having a great time, and you go to Galway together and you're so happy because it's, you know, the weather had been terrible, but you go to Galway and there's no sun, or sorry, there's no rain. It's sunny and it's a beautiful day, and you just walk around and mess around and pet a dog on the street and go get ice cream and just talk and walk, and it's beautiful. And then the next day you're like a real grown-up thousands of miles away. But it's
purely hypothetically.
Hypothetically. None of this has ever happened in real life. Just, I think this song, I don't know, I almost felt bad saying it's kind of rose-colored glasses, but maybe that's me looking back on things with rose-colored glasses. But it just, and I also really like
we had a dandy time.
How the line says, "I know being reckless and young is not how the damage gets done." Because I think there's kind of a narrative out there where it's like things fall apart, especially like young relationships. They fall apart because you're young. They fall apart just because that's what happens when you meet somebody when you're 18 and then you grow up. It's the growing up that kind of makes things fall apart, but it's usually not. It's usually kind of like the world. I don't know. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, and according to Genius, down at the bottom, he kind of talked about this song being, like, take, for example, climate change. People, like, you are young and reckless, and then older people are going to be like, this is why the planet's ending. No, it's not. Mm-hmm. And they talk about how, like, this is what we inherited. We didn't do this. So, like, what Elanor said, being reckless and young is not how the damage gets done. Is me having a good time and enjoying my youth. It's not the reason the icebergs are melting. So I literally like the line, "It was just our turn." Like, you know, you were young and had fun. And, like, to say that to the world is like, well, why don't I, just because this situation is dire now, I still don't deserve that chance. However, I don't think this album needed a feature. This did not pass our feature test because Brandi Carlile, like, sang a line or two by herself, but they kind of just sang together. I like the song. I just, like, didn't think we should have thrown it in there. Yes, ma'am.
I kind of liked the feature on this just because, I don't know, I think I look like it's nicer to have a second perspective on this song. I think the feature worked really well.
I think it's really good. I just think, for me personally, I think Hozier has such a clear narrative and a clear vision that it's very hard for me to hear another voice on that, because I think he, like, inserts himself into the story. Doesn't it's like Francesca, for example, is about two historical figures, but at the same time it sounds very much like Hozier singing to his own partner. I would go to hell again if I could be with you for a minute more, you know? So just to have someone else on there, and especially in a song that wasn't necessarily about a romantic relationship. I like the song. I said, like, if he did a deluxe album, I could see this fitting in very nicely. I just think it, like, didn't interrupt, like, it did not interrupt the flow at all. It fit right in very well. Just me, personally. I'm not a feature person. I think a feature has to be, like, exceptional. Yeah. Because you're bringing someone else into your own music. Like, you can make a song that's okay and put it on your album, but if you're going to bring someone else in, it has to be exceptional. They have to be exceptional for it to work. No hate to Brandi Carlile. It was good. I liked it.
Me too.
The next song. I have so many thoughts about that I only have 3 thoughts about it. So if you'd like to go, I'll be fast at the end.
Okay. So my first note on this, I'll just read them in order. My first 2 notes. Oh my God. And then my second note is, I'm sorry, Kalina.
Oh, God.
And then I pulled out 2 different lyrics, one of which is Falling from You Drop by Drop, and the second one is Hold Me Like Water, or Christ, Hold Me Like a Knife.
Hold me like a knife.
And then my immediate next note is, I can't talk about this song or I will die.
Okay, me too.
And
I really like the piano in this song.
I really like the piano of this song.
I liked he said getting through still has a cost. So again, it may have been worth it, but Orpheus, Eurydice, Francesca, it may have been worth it. And he's not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, but we did have to suffer for it. We had to suffer for our love so far away from each other. Anyway, totally don't know what that's about. Hold me like water, or Christ,
hold me like a knife.
And he says, basically he's saying someone else will come into my life and they'll hold me like water. So they're going to let him fall through their fingers, or they're going to hold him tight.
When you hold a knife, you have to hold it in the correct way, and you have to hold it like very intentionally and purposefully.
And you have to, and you don't let go of it.
You don't let go of it, and you have to know. Yeah, okay. Yep.
Whereas water, you can try all you might. You're not holding on to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going. And, one of us has a thing about water, and
the other one has a thing about knives.
Tattoos.
You have a knife tattoo?
Both of us have. Well, I have a sword tattoo.
You have a sword? You have a sword tattoo.
One.
Okay.
I do have a sword tattoo.
I do. I have mine's technically a dagger.
Yeah, I was gonna go with the dagger, and then I was like, "There's no way to make a dagger large except call it a sword." So
that's fair.
That's where we ended up.
Great song.
Good song.
Amazing song. I am not gonna finish that sentence. I'm sorry.
Did we say the name of the song?
It's Who We Are.
And he keeps saying "darling." I think that goes right back into the whole. I like how he writes about love. Makes me want to be in love. Not that there's anything wrong with baby. I just think it's like overused.
Mm-hmm.
So like to say "darling," and when he says "baby," he says, I think as it was, he says, "The nights were as bright as my baby and half as beautiful, or not bright as the nights were as dark as my baby and half as beautiful too." So like he says "my baby." He's not just baby. He's hers. She's his girl.
I kind of
lady.
I have a thing about pet names, so I'm not gonna add anything to this.
Oh my God, do you? I would not have guessed that at all.
That's really upsetting for me.
That's crazy.
That really hurt my feelings.
Son of Nyx. Next song.
My note for this is, I don't have anything to say. It's instrumental. Take it away, Kalina.
A full-length instrumental is bold, but I think it worked. Like, usually if you're gonna throw an instrumental song on there, it's like a minute, maybe 2 minutes. My man, this is like a 4-minute song almost, okay? This is the full, like, the length of some other songs on this album. Next song, All Things End.
This is, I know I've had some other soapbox songs. This is a soapbox song for me. Hello. If there was anyone to ever get through this life with their heart still intact, they didn't do it right.
I need you to move out of my brain. That's my first note.
This song, I am, like, okay, not to sound like somebody who was raised religious and raised with the idea that you should only date or commit yourself in any way to somebody if you 100% saw yourself getting married in front of God and your parents at the same time. But that's how I was raised. And I think that did some damage to me in ways that I will probably unravel for a little bit. But I think it's a dumb idea. I also think that people, I think, like, this is changing a little bit, but I also think there's kind of this idea, and obviously there's a lot of, like, caveats to this. Okay, so just shut up.
Sometimes.
But, like, something ending or stopping or a breakup happening, whatever it might be, it does not take away the love and the beauty that existed while that thing was happening. And, like, I think Kalina and I are kind of in the same boat, but especially me right now, I'm in this boat where it's like, the purpose of having somebody in your life is not to reach some goal. You know, you don't date somebody because you think you are going to marry them. You don't, become friends with somebody because they have a boat. If you are inviting somebody into your life and into your heart in whatever capacity it might be, it needs to be because you love them. It needs to be because you enjoy them. It needs to be because they bring delight to your life in some way. And the idea that whatever it is might end one day, I don't think should be scary. I'm so sorry. The beauty is in the journey.
I feel like you could have just said that and we could have moved on less time.
But it is, and I think this song is just so beautiful. But I'm stepping down now.
I'll step up. This is another one of his singles. My first note was if there was anyone to ever get through this life with their heart still intact, they didn't do it right. And this is kind of like a theme throughout the album because he's talking about, I think, doomed love in a lot of these songs. But like knowing this is going to end should not make us change how we live our lives. Knowing this is going to end poorly doesn't mean what we had in Francesca. Again, I keep bringing it back to there. Like our love, I know I'm going to suffer through hell. I would do it all again because I loved you. And this isn't what we want, and that isn't always bad. And that kind of made me think of what's meant for me will not pass me by. And sometimes you want something so badly, and you don't get it. And that's okay, because it's not the thing you were meant to have. And sometimes you get the thing you wanted to have, and you're like, not it's bad, but, like, it's hard. You still got to work for it once you have it. But Elanor, I think, hit all the points. So I'll just say I really loved how the chorus in this song comes in. And you could tell me the end was, like, from a gospel song, and I'd believe you. He's got this big choral vocal, and they're singing the chorus, and all things end. All that we intend is scrawled in sand, or slips right through our hands, which kind of links right back to hold me like water. And he says, and just knowing that everything will end should not change our plans when we begin again.
I agree. Oh, is it my turn again?
I hope this next song makes you sad.
Okay. Yeah, it did. This song made me really sad. This song, sad in a good way.
Yes.
The one of the lines, I don't know if it's in the Genius blurb or
Elanor, what's the name of the song first?
Oh, I'm so sorry. This song is called To Someone from a Warm Climate, and then an Irish word that I'm not going to try to pronounce.
And do you know who's from a warm climate?
No. And in the Genius blurb, it says something about how this song is about something so mundane but so remarkable, and just yep. Take it away, Kalina. Yeah, no, I can't talk about this song either.
I don't want to discuss being cold in Ireland.
No, and I don't want to discuss. Yep.
However, the delivery of All My Dreaming could make me cry. And funnily enough, it reminds me a lot of the duet he does with Brandi Carlile. But I like that song. I adore how he says, in all my dreaming. And also he says the awful things we do to make the head go quiet. And kind of, I can't think love as work. And love as not necessarily solving all your problems either. You might be in love and you might be happy with this person, but like you can't. That's not, like Eleanor said earlier. It's not the goal. Like it's not gonna make everything else magically go away and fix everything. Yeah, I can't. Nope.
Yeah. One line in this song is it happened easy, darling, as natural as another leg around you in the bed. And I said the other day to somebody who I will not name, but like back to it's mundane and remarkable. Yep. I just sometimes you say yes to one thing once and it
yeah
impacts the trajectory of
Yeah.
your life in a way that. Yep. Okay. We're gonna.
Wait, before we move on, real quick, I do like a good theme. I like looking at reoccurring themes and imagery in a musician's catalog. Right now, I'm working on one for Fall Out Boy and Sunshine. So keep an eye out for that. I will subject Elanor to it.
Okay.
Hozier sings a lot about kind of like, I want to say, the darkness of his girlfriend, because like in Take Me to Church, he says, my lover's got humor. She's the giggle at a funeral. So kind of like, she's not like. He's not singing about her like she's peaches and cream all the time, you know? She's not necessarily evil or bad. So that kind of comes up. And another theme that comes up a lot is God. And then another theme that comes up a lot is his lover as his God.
Mm-hmm.
We're focusing specifically on the God part here. I really like how he phrases. He says that God in his awful wisdom for his programs in. And this is going to sound really bad. I love when someone, like, bastardizes what are, like, normal, accepted impressions and descriptions of God. People say God in his great wisdom and his all-knowing wisdom. And he says, no, God in his awful wisdom. Because God can do great things, yes, but to do great things, God has also done awful things. And I don't think that takes away from, if you're religious, I don't think that takes away from the power and the might and the love of God. But at the end of the day, if God is all-knowing and omniscient, God lets awful things happen in the world. But God won't take this away from us. He could put me through hell. But put me back in it. And do it again. The next song is not much better.
No. It's not worse, but it's not better. Butchered Tongue. I'm gonna keep this really short because I think our friend who I have to say his name without thinking about it, otherwise I get really tripped up.
Just say Mr. Andrew. That's what I call him.
Mr. Andrew.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Mr. Andrew. One of the lines in this, literally my notes for this song are this one lyric, and then I have a lot of thoughts about Ireland as a nation, but I fear this is not the format. So I'm just gonna say my one thing, and then I'm gonna pass it off to
Perfect.
you. It says, you may never know your fortune until the distance has been shown between what is lost forever and what can still be known.
Pass it on over here, boss. I have lots of thoughts. This song is about the loss of your native language to the violence of colonization and how that's bad, obviously, right? And how, just in case we were unclear, I love an educated man. Okay, he lists a place in Florida. He lists a place in Mississippi, I think it is, and then a place in Ireland. And like these places he goes to, and he says, as a young man blessed to pass so many road signs. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I have been to more countries than I have been to states, and I'm a little sad about it, right? But I'm very lucky and very blessed to have traveled the world and seen these places and lived in different places and to encounter the culture, but also with culture, I think with pretty much every culture except for, those guys. We know the guys. Suffering is a part of it. Suffering at the hands of another culture specifically, and how language is used to control and removal and denial of language is used to control groups and masses of people. And we'll take Ireland for example. Obviously the Irish are not allowed to speak their own language and learn their own language, and the fact that it still survives today in any capacity is amazing. I was reading this little article about the Quileute tribe in my book in Forks, Washington, and how the last speaker of the language died in 1999. So they're we think there's this one river that's got a name and we think it means wolf, but we'll never be able to find out.
We'll never know.
That's lost forever. And I just really loved how he sounded in this song. It sounded like he was telling a story that he really did not want. It was devastating. It was so sad just in sound and in concept. And he sounded like he was telling a story he did not want to, but he knew had to be shared.
So far from home, to have a stranger call you darling and have your guarded heart be lifted like a child up by the hand. In some town that just means home to them.
With no translator.
Left us out!
There are things we will never know, and not because things get lost to time naturally, but because they do. That's going to happen. But because they were eradicated. They were stamped out.
Torn away.
They were not allowed. I forgot this, but when I was little, I had one of those, like, I think it was a series of books where, like, they were written like a diary from, like, real life people. And the one I was given, I used to read it a lot, was about this little Native American girl who was, like, put into an English school. And, like, how they, which feels very timely because you're finding all these dead children on these schools and mass graves.
This is not a thought that is directly related to yours. This is a thought that I'm having about Ireland, and by having, I mean, it's just always there. I think in some ways the mystification of Ireland, especially by Americans, does, like, almost does the country a disservice, which makes me, I don't know, I feel, Colleen and I are obviously not Irish, okay? We're not spokespeople for Ireland. But I know Colleen and I both have conversations with strangers all the time of, like, oh my god, you lived in Ireland, I bet it was so beautiful, I bet it was so wonderful, I bet you made friends with a leprechaun. And I don't know, I feel like Americans are trying to America Ireland in the sense that they're trying to make it seem like, because the country is, well, okay, I don't want to say the country's doing okay now, because neither of them are, but, like, I don't know, I feel like Americans have a very kind of specific blind spot for ignoring bad things if it's something that they desire, if that makes sense.
I don't know. I was gonna say, I feel like it's almost like a uniquely an American thing, and I don't think that's, like, 100% the case. You can have this other places, but because America dominates media and just, media, social media, just the narrative in the world on such a large scale, and I don't think this is a good thing, I'm just saying it does happen. The perception of, so, like, Ireland and the positive, it's like this fantasy place, this dream place people want to go to. I had the opposite experience in the sense of, like, when I talked about living in Eastern Europe and how people still call the place Czechoslovakia, and people ask me if I went to Yugoslavia, and, like, how life is hard and cold there, and, like, life was hard and cold there, but that's, like, that wasn't all it was. And, like, I think,
no, that's one small part of it.
Yeah, I think Americans, I don't want to be, like, bashing Americans, because I think anyone does this, but I don't think there's enough education. And I can only speak to America because I went to school here and lived here, but, like, we don't have enough of a frame of reference of the rest of the world to, I think, picture them as people. Yes, ma'am.
I agree. I think part of it is, like, we are not taught enough about what our own country has, like, what we have, I don't know, like, kind of what we have done to the people in our country to even begin to understand the pain of other countries.
I'm going to say something, and I don't think Elanor should not weigh in on this. I think that the thing that gets promoted a lot in America is slavery, obviously. Slavery was awful and terrible and horrible and bad. But I think because that is the one thing that's, like, the one quote-unquote awful thing that's taught in school in America, and it's not taught even to its fullest extent, I think that becomes the bar by which everything is judged. That, and I'd say, like, the Holocaust. Those are the two things by which every other atrocity and every other massacre and every other systematic removal of a culture is judged off of. And that's not fair because they're all different. They can't all be judged by the same stick.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, things should not be judged by the quote-unquote worst thing, especially, like, countries should not be, I don't know, judged on the worst thing that happened to them. But I think I think I can say this as a blanket statement: trying to rewrite history to fit whatever narrative you have going on in your head is never a good or smart thing to do.
And I didn't want you to feel like I was cutting you out of the conversation. I just felt for your own sake online.
I mean, not to spook the people. I'm not black.
I promise I didn't have that many thoughts about this song when we started talking.
No, but they're smart thoughts. I think you are so smart.
Thank you. I think you're so smart. High five.
Thank you.
I think between the two of us, we cover enough demographics. We can cover a lot of bases.
Honestly, I think between the two of us, we could rule the world.
I mean, I think that I just wouldn't have said it out loud on the internet.
Okay, well, I didn't say that we should start a cult.
Next song is called Anything But. I'm giving Elanor a very short leash.
Okay. If I had Death's job...
Elanor? I can't wait to see you.
If I had Death's job, you would live forever.
I know it seems like we talk a lot. Like, when Elanor and I are together, I don't actually think we talk a lot because we just have the same brain. So we just say the same sentence all the time. To me, this song is like to be young and feeling like it's a bit more positive version of Damage Was Done, in the sense that, like, you're young and you're feeling like you can do everything and tackle everything, and he's not really focusing on the drawbacks or like reality hitting side of that. If I had this job, you would live forever. It reminds me a little bit of Almost, which is another song by him, Almost Sweet Music. He says, in that song, he says, "Be still my beating heart, don't ruin this for me." But basically, just the way he sings in that song, in that song, and like the what's the word? The rhythm of this song reminds me of Almost. Abstract.
Next song, Abstract, Psycho Pop. Okay.
Tell me the line.
There's a... No choice but to love you.
Oh, no, that's not even mine.
Oh!
That actually, that is on my list, but at the end, my first one was, "I'm still glad I met you."
Yeah, the other day I sent a text to Kalina. We were talking, and I said something like, when I said yes to having a radio show with you, I didn't even realize I was saying yes. I think I was momentarily possessed by Elanor from the future, who knew that it was a good idea.
Yes.
And it's kind of weird that a song about an animal getting hit by a car made me cry over my best friend. But it did. And that's just how I'm living. And then also this song kind of gave me whiplash because I was having those emotions in one I was having those emotions in one separate part of my brain. And then in the end, he says, "Darling, there's a part of me I'm afraid will always be trapped within an abstract from a moment of my life," which hurt my feelings in an entirely different, not at all related to my childhood way. So this song was a lot for me. But whatever.
I love the post-chorus. I love how he sings the chorus and the post-chorus. It's to see how it shines, and it's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so sad all the time. Although my point does still stand. Kind of like, I do feel like with the moment I knew I had no choice but to love you, he's gonna do anything. No matter, like, he doesn't have a say in it. It's a fact of life. It's gonna happen. Anyway, Elanor, what are your thoughts on the next song? It's called Unknown.
The next song is called Unknown. And this, I will be completely honest with you. I could not, I listened to this song, but I could not take it in because I don't think I'm in the headspace right now to be able to take this song in. Because it's a little heartbreaking.
Fret not. This is the song. This is the song I have a story about. There is a circle of hell. Mind you, all of my information is from Hozier talking about this song, okay? This song was doing little numbers on TikTok, the part where it says, "You know the distance never made a difference to me." And I have to tell you, it took all of my willpower not to make a video about you using that song, right?
That is the only line I pulled out from this song. It is the first line of this song.
But Hozier is talking about how there's a circle of hell, basically, where Lucifer's punishment, he's in the 9th circle of hell. It's the cold circle. So he's trapped in ice. And he's trying to free himself. So he's beating his wings to escape. But all his wings do is create more wind, which makes it colder, which just makes more ice. So he's just trapped. And the whole time, Adam's punishment is to be chewed by Lucifer. So there's like pieces of Adam stuck in Lucifer's teeth. And Hozier was talking about how this song is about when you fall in love with someone and you give your heart to someone and you're getting pieces of your heart stuck in their teeth because of how they treat you. And it also made me think of that BoJack Horseman quote. And I've never seen BoJack Horseman, and Eleanor was talking about rose-colored glasses earlier, so it made me think of it again, where she says, the problem is when you like look at the world through rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags. Because he says something about like scarlet flags. Yeah, he says, if there were scarlet flags, they washed out in the mind of me. And in the third verse, he says, you called me angel for the first time. My heart leapt from me. You smile now. I can see its pieces still stuck in your teeth. So, like, you know, the first time she called him baby, and the final time she called him baby, and, like, you know, she called him, she's an angel to him, but she was chewing him up and spitting him back out, basically. And just the surge on when he says, do you know, this is at the end, and this is the best part of the whole song. It's like, it sounds like he's pleading with her, and he says, do you know I could break beneath the weight of the goodness love I still carry for you? Oh my God. And I just, the song overall is very quiet and groovy because he's like lamenting, but he kind of like, he sounds quiet, almost like he's sad, this is over. He's like, you've chewed me up, you spit me out. And he's just like telling it to her. Well, he's like, I had love for you and I loved you and this is how you treated me. But like when he gets to that part, he's like, it's almost like he's like, not angry, but he's getting a little louder. He's like, do you, like, I still carry love for you. I still have goodness in my heart for you and it would break me and you're chewing me up and spitting me out. Instrumentally drags on a little long at the end. There's like a minute of instrumental. If I had to complain about something, but yeah, the distance never made a difference to me. Yeah. Last song.
I know. Yep. The last song. We're getting this way under time, guys. There is just something so... I talked about this already, I'm so sorry. There is just something so beautiful to me about the idea of the mundane being remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this song is about. This song is essentially about how just your whole day can be made, and just everything is not everything is fixed and everything is perfect, but the day starting off well in this sense by being able to just turn over and look at the person you love, just having the day start like that just kind of sets everything up for success. And
mm-hmm.
like he says, I lived my whole life before the first light, and it's like just kind of everything slotted into place before the day even began. Could this be how every day begins?
Eleanor,
After this, I'm never gonna be the same, and I am never going back again. And just the second verse where he says, just darkness always finds you either way. It creeps into the corners of the moment, fades. But like, I don't know. Okay, I'm depressed. I am clinically, I am depressed. I don't know. I have decided that it was getting embarrassing how depressed I was, and I have decided to start being more grateful for things, and I've started to kind of push myself. Unfortunately, the journal girlies were right, and gratitude does help fix things, and yeah. like I'm still sad. I still have a lot of sadness in my heart, but being able to recognize the beautiful things that I have, and just I don't know. I do. I have a lot of beautiful things in my life, and especially right now, it feels like they have been multiplying in ways that I never could have expected. and I don't know. I'm having a really good time. But this was a really good song, and also I think it was a stellar way to end the album.
Great album ender. I wrote this thought down of like, you cannot wait to be happy. You can't wait. You can't be like, oh, when I lose weight, when I get a boyfriend, when I, am prettier, when I finish college. Like, you can't live your life in the future. And Eleanor talked earlier about kind of like a relationship being a goal, and like that can't be the goal. And so this song kind of makes me think of that. He's like, and the guitar and just the way he kind of draws out the first few lines of the song, he really like draws out all the words in it. And it feels to me like you're waking up. So Eleanor talked a lot about like, how you're saying waking up and seeing your partner's face first thing in the morning. So it feels like we're waking up, which I think is a really interesting way to end an album, but it works because of the tone of the album. It's like, and the album wasn't depressing, because the album very much was about, even though it's hard, life is hard, and love is hard, and we've suffered for our life choices of being young, and we've suffered for our choices to be together and love each other, it still was worth it. But here, it's like he's waking up in a world where they didn't have to suffer for any of those things. They just got to do it, and it was fine. And the chorus, to me, kind of felt like the breaking of the surface. So kind of like reverse Icarus, when he talked about Icarus in the album, where Icarus crashed into the water, obviously. And to me, the chorus feels like we're coming back up out of the water. Like, I lived my whole life before the first light. And the line about the darkness always finds you either way, kind of went back into my themes for the album, I noticed. So he talked about darkness in the Selby Part 2. He says, and your heart, love, has such darkness. And in Francesca, he doesn't say darkness directly, but he says, how could you think I'd scare so easily? So, like, whatever awful things you have in your heart and your mind, that's not going to scare me off because I love you. And then, so a different kind of darkness is just darkness of the world will find us, but that doesn't make a difference because we have this light. And I'm so sad. And
this song also made me think a little bit about grief, which is something I have unfortunately had a little bit of experience with lately. And kind of when you first wake up every morning, there's kind of a moment where you have to almost relearn everything. Like, you don't typically wake up and just kind of inherently know, oh, I don't know, every morning there's a part where you kind of have to relearn how bad things are, but being able to balance it with the good things is very helpful. Yes, Kalina?
I'm sorry, I had to say this before I forgot, and while it was still relevant, about you waking up and having to relearn everything. I think Glee was a show that happened, right? And it was
Glee?
on the air. Yep, bear with me. This is
okay.
when I have a point. And we all remember that fella died on Glee, right? Corey Monteith.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to kill off Finn. And there's a scene that gets me every single time I watch it. I will cry. No questions asked. Does not matter how good a day I'm having. Where it's after Finn dies, and Kurt's dad and Finn's mom, because Kurt's dad and Finn's mom got together, are packing up Finn's stuff. And Finn's mom says something along the lines of, she says, there's a moment in the morning when you first wake up and you forget, and then you remember. And it's like living through that phone call all over again every single time. And then she says how, she's like, I used to, like, watch parents on the TV, and I wondered, like, how could they, like, live after their kid was gone? And she's like, but you do get up, and you do have to keep living, even though you have to keep being a parent, even though you don't have a child anymore. And that made me think of that, and that makes me cry every single time I see it.
Which is why it's good to keep track of what you're grateful for, because it does help.
I think losing a child is the worst thing that could happen to somebody. Yep. And I know it's a little dramatic, but that's genuinely, like, on the list of reasons I won't have a child. I don't think I'd survive, like, if anything happened to my brother, let alone a child I birthed. I feel like I birthed my brother, okay? A child I birthed?
Yeah, no, it's not something I'm even willing to consider putting myself through, so I like, that's not the main I also, like, don't want to be sticky all the time, but...
I don't want to be pregnant. I don't want a child enough to, like, subject a child to me being their parent. I think I'd be a good parent. I don't have the desire enough that I think it's worth it, but no, that's definitely on, like, that's on the list.
Yeah, no, fully agree. No, it's not, no.
If you don't mind, I have a couple, like, overall thoughts and a couple thoughts on themes, and then we could talk about our top 3 songs.
Absolutely. I have literally 2 overall thoughts, so you first.
Okay, so, I think his musical influences are very clear. Hozier as an artist is, like, especially Nina Cried Power, when that came out, you could tell he was a fan and almost a student of the music he listened to and appreciated and incorporated. So there's a lot of very clear R&B in here. There's some jazz. He talked about the Selby Part 2 being like a disco-y version of Part 1. So, like, you can really hear those influences. And I don't remember who we said this about, but it was recently we said something similar about another artist, but, like, their voice was the same regardless of the tone or the vibe of the song. Whereas I think Hozier changes his style of singing and his tone to fit whatever the, I guess, genre of that specific song is. And what happened to Through Me? I would like to know. That deserves to be on this album. It was a good song. I really like his use of choral vocals. I know we kind of had a disagreement on the echoes, but I think it's just really well. It makes it feel very spiritual, especially the way he sings about love, and, like, especially in this album on All Things End. But the way he, like, another theme that comes up a lot is his lover as religion. And, like, I kind of thought about the Selby Part 2, where he says, if you want it done, it's sold. Like, the easy answer is Take Me to Church. Like, that's obvious, but, like, work song. Like, his lover is, like, the only thing he will... Eleanor's gonna love this word. His lover is the only thing he will submit to. And also twice in this album... Was it wrong? I was just trying to get ahead of the curve, ahead of the press. And also twice in this album, I didn't bring it up because it makes me insane, but he said, "Come here" to me. And I don't know if you've ever had an Irish person say that to you. Very bad, and by bad I mean great for my heart. I said, why did he do that twice? Does he know what that does to me? He must.
He must.
If someone said, anytime someone says, sure, look, I'm like, yeah, sure, look, what's up?
The way Irish people say the word like, and the way they structure it into sentences, makes me genuinely feral.
Another thing I noticed, and I've noticed I do this too, is they'll say, like, they use I've, but in different ways. So, like, I think in English, like in American English, you say I've done that, as in past tense, I have done that. But the Irish use I've even, like, in present tense, which is not something I feel like Americans do. And he did that. I don't know, there was another song he did it on. We didn't have time to point it out. But I love Ireland. I love Irish people. When they, not even, and I feel like we're doing a little bit of, like, what we talked about and complained about earlier. But the greatest thing to me about the Irish is when they take you in, like, once they have accepted you, they just make you a part of their people. And, like, obviously we'll never be Irish, we'll never, like, have that history, but, like, you feel, I mean, to be fair, we also lived there for a while, but, like, they take you in.
They do.
And if I didn't have Ireland, I wouldn't have a lot of things I had.
I agree. I am very careful about talking about my time in Ireland because I don't want it to seem like I am mystifying it, and I don't want it to seem like moving to Europe fixed all my problems, because that's incredibly annoying. But I don't know. Ireland brought me beautiful things that I mean, I know all things end, but I hope they don't.
I'm always worried about having to justify the way I speak about Ireland to someone, but I know I wouldn't have to justify it to someone, at least who I met, like my friends from Ireland. I'm always worried about talking about it with, like, when I come home. Someone be like, you sound like you think you're Irish or you think you're part. And like, no, but like it was a very significant part of my life and a very formative part of my life. Mm-hmm. And you can't just take that away. Yes, ma'am.
I have realized that Americans seem to talk about their college experience with with a very similar kind of amount of reverence as we do, which made me feel a lot better.
I think we would have talked. I think that's what it is we, even if we hadn't gone to college there, we would talk about it like Americans talk about college. And if we had gone to college somewhere else, we would talk about college as someone mm-hmm. talked about going to college. Is it that our college experience at the same time was very closely tied to being in a different country? Mm-hmm. So, anyway, themes. I brought up darkness, which I've talked about all of those. God, in De Selby Part 1, he says, no closer could I be to God. But then into Someone from a Warm Climate, he says, that God in his awful wisdom, again, take me to church. God's a running theme for this fellow. And then his love, res, religion we've talked about. So if you'd like to tell me your top 3 songs, I will tell you my top 3 songs.
Well, wait, I have one overall note. This did not feel like a 16-track album in a really good way.
I played this and then played it, and I've been listening to this album and nothing else for the last 3 days.
I listened to this album all through my workday, and every time it stopped, I was like, oh, it's over? Okay, top 3. These aren't in order, and these aren't going to be surprising. Eat Your Young, Who We Are, All Things End.
We don't have any crossover for once in our lives.
Oh, at all?
At all.
That means your top 3 are all going to be my second rung, right?
Probably. But real quick, before I share them, sometimes when you do it on shuffle on Spotify on the phone, it'll like throw in, like you play an album, it'll throw in songs from the, like earlier songs from the artist, and because I know all of his stuff, and like sometimes I'm like driving and listening, so I'm not actively listening, his old stuff fits in, like this album fits in very well with like the canon of his work. It was like sometimes I didn't even notice we had transitioned out of the album, you know what I mean? But my top 3 songs are De Selby Part 2, To Someone from a Warm Climate, and Abstract.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Yep, that tracks for us.
Yeah, yours probably would have been my next few, so.
Yep. I just, I was a little feral when I was picking my top 3, which is what influenced them.
Clearly. I will be a little feral in 1 week because I'm going to see my wife.
I was not that kind of feral.
I don't know if anyone knows who my wife is, but I'm very excited to see her. We're going to spend a whole week together. It's going to be everybody's problem. They sound really
fun and hot.
They are one of those things. I'll let you pick which one you would prefer to be.
Okay.
And it's going to be everybody's problem. So tune in next week. Where we will be live.
Yes.
Yes.
Not live as in live, but just live as in...
Maybe live. I'm still floating that TikTok live idea.
No, I run my mouth too much to put me on... I mean...
No, I am floating the idea. You are not there. I don't know what you're doing.
I'll be in the background saying slurs that will get us canceled. No, that's a joke. I don't say slurs. That
Elanor only says slurs that she's legally allowed to.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I am certified allowed to.
Can confirm. Never heard her say the N-word.
Thank you. I think. I'm really excited to drive Kalina around because I drive stick, and I think I'm gonna get really nervous and stall out a bunch because I don't drive well when pretty girls are in my car.
Aww. Okay, well, I'll see you guys next week. I love my life. I'm having a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Don't quote me on that. One day we'll have an outro, but it's not today.